Hello, gosh. Yeah, this is going to be quite a formal video in that shortly my colleague John Catchpole, for 30 years now, wow, and a student in Italy, Michele. Hopefully it's going to be all right for both of them for us to record this, obviously, otherwise you'll never see it. But if it is, it's an opportunity for others to get an introduction, the first call, if you like, with the developers and trainers of this technology and the student. So obviously it's exciting for us to not only share something that's been around for actually a couple of decades, but also develop the latest discoveries and upgrades to our software, which obviously is really exciting for us. So anyhow, I see Michele is just joining us. I'm going to pause the recording for a minute and get his permission and so forth, and then here we go. See you in a minute. Yeah, I just like to introduce Michele, who, how do you pronounce your surname, by the way?
It's Ikeri.
Ikeri, how lovely, how lovely. So Michele, you're in Italy somewhere, and as I understand it, you're already in the field in the sense that you've been doing some quite serious education with the the human body and that sort of thing. Give me a brief insight into what you've qualified as and who you're becoming.
Okay. Allora, sorry, I speak in Italian. Okay.
That's fine.
I'm a physiotherapist. I'm a degree physiotherapist. And now I'm studying chiropractic and online. And soon I will transfer in America at Life University. And I also have some expertise with scanner therapy.
Right. Can you say that again?
I have trouble seeing you and hearing you. It's so lagging.
Okay, I think I'm gonna
really
turn my
slow.
video off so that the audio is better. You keep your video on because I'm up a mountain and my satellite sometimes doesn't give us the bandwidth that we'd really like. So I also, it got a bit garbled for me. Did you say canal therapy as in meridian therapies?
No, sorry. I'm a physiotherapist.
Yeah.
Now I'm studying chiropractic.
Yeah.
And I'm also have some expertise with scanner therapy.
Oh, scanner. Okay, so
Yes.
so we're talking about the Russian device, which has got a huge following around the world. Right. Well, I'm definitely in that camp as well, Michele, and I'll be happy to share our research with you into the scanner. We've looked at quite a few different models, and put it this way: the first research paper that I did on scanner was probably 15 years ago. Hi, John.
Hello, John.
Hi. Good to meet you. Hi.
Apparently my audio and video is a bit garbled, John. So I'm keeping my camera off, just so that the important stuff comes through. But this is a sort of important moment for us because we're recording this video as part of our new series of training courses online. And so I've asked Michele if that's all right, and I must ask you if that's all right as well. I've already informed future students that they'll never see it if it isn't by both of you. So I'm hoping it is, John.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
Thank you. How are you?
That's fine. Yeah. Very good, very good. Very busy, as you know,
Yeah.
with all we're doing. So trying to balance it and keep get as much done as possible. And
Well, Michele
very
and
good.
I were talking very briefly about his background, and there is no better practitioner than someone who's sort of been medically trained and holistically trained. Someone who's got the kind of biochemical, mechanical body down to a T, as he does in his physiotherapy kind of white coat. But obviously now becoming a chiropractor, he's got a much more sensitive understanding. And it's an obvious transition to me. I'm surprised more people haven't done it. But of course, when you go to medical school, the one thing all the professors are saying is, don't ever become a chiropractor because it's quackery. So it's like a crocodile infested river you have to cross, laid with traps of, pre-planned distraction. But John, this presentation is also an opportunity for us to share our absolutely juicy leading edge stuff. And I'm sure Michele and I would love to hear for a couple of minutes, totally impromptu, how the new internal communication system is developing so that all of the Biofield practitioners around the world can kind of do telemedicine and share images. Obviously, the ones with more experience can guide new practitioners to details they may have missed. And then just, of course, having had Facebook as our main medium for communication with all the practitioners, well, 2/3 of our practitioners aren't on Facebook. So it's been a real challenge. And it long overdue.
Yes.
So perhaps you could give
Yes.
us a little kind of
Yes.
insight into what's going to happen and,
Yes.
and when.
Well, we because we write our own software, we have a unique advantage of being able to create exactly what works best for us, and designed from the very beginning to be optimized for what's most helpful, and without the distractions of the bright lights of Facebook is good fun in a lot of ways, but it's also very tiring if you sit on there for a long time, and that's a health issue because we're all about health. That's what we're doing, and as I said, I'm fairly healthy at the moment, but I'm always trying to get the best out of myself that I can. And I find that, for example, if you make the screen darker, a lot of people are now doing that. It relaxes the eye strain. So, lower contrast presentation. See, Facebook does now have a dark mode, which amuses me because it's still very high contrast because you've got bright white on jet black. And it still kind of screams at me, which is what it's trying to do, I believe. It's by design. They're intelligent designers for their purpose. But we're all about making people healthy. And a lot of the people we're dealing with are struggling in some way. And we don't need to add stress. We need to remove stress and make it a pleasant, relaxing experience. So we're more the kind of Adobe Photoshop kind of low contrast presentation, and so it concentrates on the images, and like we've got in this Zoom thing at the moment, we've got we're focusing on the images, not on the periphery, not on advertising. It's not trying to just tire us out, wear our energy out with advertising. We're trying to focus on the important things, which is each other mostly. And I certainly agree with Thornton. At least half of the people, I'd say more than half the people that I've introduced to Biofield Viewer have prefer not to use Facebook. So this is a very exciting move because we're going to enable all these people to help us as well as us helping them. and it's definitely a big step forward, and it's integrated with our software. So instead of having like a chat website and then the software in different windows, and you know, you tend to lose sight of one when using the other. We've got this completely integrated. So we have Biofield Viewer functionality, which works on all devices, and has the is integrated to a conversation when people want to have that, and it's high privacy conscious. It's not necessarily all out in the public. It is a kind of by consent. People can decide how to contribute and how privately to do that. And of course, it's extremely private when they're using it themselves. There's nothing more private in the world than a Biofield Viewer scan, and so that's, you know, is designed from a fundamental technology to be away from a third-party software, which we can't vouch for. We can't vouch for how reliable that is, and it may get hacked. And I've used a lot of maths to try and prove that it's very difficult. Never can say it's impossible, but it's very difficult for people to access the encrypted information we have without a password, of course, to get in.
John.
So, yeah.
John, I mean, Michaela, obviously this is a project to remain HIPAA compliant for our telemedicine project, so that our trainers and trainees can send images between each other, and there's no chance, as John says, they can be hacked. But obviously the consumer version of this chat Biofield community would allow two people to have their Biofield view images in real time and chat with each other. So it could become a kind of a spiritual dating opportunity, or you know, whoever chooses to be in full revelation mode. And this is why we're building it with such kind of solid foundations, that it can run for the 2,000 or 3,000 practitioners as a HIPAA compliant intercollegiate communication. But on the other side, you know, there's all kinds of opportunities, you know, as people look for a chat community where they can be honest, and obviously other practitioners would be able to use it to screen their clients, but just for a social process. Sort of full revelation by the soul mirror allows, you know, a much deeper connection with people who may have never met. You know, there's plenty of love affairs that traverse the planet. So it really is a very exciting development, and you know, it's something that John spent, you know, a lot of time working on. So I think it dovetails very well.
It's the whole of the last year, really. Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
It was obvious about a year ago that this was needed, and before the virus even was a well-known thing, and finally got the technology working now. So we'll be introducing people as we can support it.
Yeah.
The most important thing is reliability. We won't compromise with bugs and stuff like this. This is precious information that we're carrying online, and it's properly engineered and carefully done.
Well done.
And
this is why we call it Biofield.
Well. I personally use it.
Sorry, John. This is why we call it Biofield 5 Live. Pardon me, crikey, interrupting.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, that's right. And it is our next generation. There's no question. I think it's actually our biggest step in the last 10 years, actually, since Biofield Viewer came out. I feel it's going to make the biggest difference to how we all work together, and what it enables. We'll find out as we go along. you know, when for instance Facebook was invented, it wasn't obvious to a lot of people that this would be massive, as massive as it is. You know, it was small. It was just in a few universities in America initially, and so you know we'll just follow what happens. But
maybe Michaela,
it's something I personally use, and yeah,
maybe sorry, John. Maybe Michaela,
very useful.
maybe Michaela can use his experience with cryptocurrency. So when we build, you know, a healing circle where people can enter in for healing, you know, the practitioners who are there, you know, there can be an exchange of lumens or cheese or whatever it is, so that you know we can transcend borders and create a kind of a light-based unit, you know, that's based on sort of human biophotons. Obviously, each of us have a fingerprint, but our biofield's uniqueness allows a much greater deal of security if we're not just looking at the biofield to analyze it, but also working with it as a tool for identification. So there's no chance someone else is going to get into your vault or your Bitcoin stash or whatever it is. So yeah, no, it is a very exciting opportunity, and it really also empowers us as, you know, the guides of healing. Real healing is self-healing. And Michaela, when you have a clinic, a physical clinic, you have a 30-mile circle where people will drive to your physical session. But when you're working at a distance with technology like Biofield Viewer and energy medicine, obviously with all the integrative knowledge that you've got, there is no distance, you know, to which we can travel. And it allows us to encourage people to learn skills to treat themselves. And they're obviously still empowered because they're monitoring the progress of their treatment with these scans. And so when we encourage and embrace a new biofield practitioner, they're not just getting a license, they're getting a seat on the exchange. It's like they've become a Kodak photo development center, and anyone who comes into them can develop their film. So, you know, you, Michaela, may have a huge Italian network for processing biofield images. Obviously, John and I will help support that individual access, and there's a way whereby they can pay a monthly amount to have direct access at all times, or they book an appointment with you and you set up an individual scan online, you know, but you can process any number of images. We have a colleague in India who had 13 clinics, and he was running the biofield system on a motorcycle from one to the other. This was before the internet, dare I say, certainly before the ability to process biofield images online. And he would literally have all the people who'd had their pictures taken that day processed in the hour that the bike delivered the device. The computer could be different, but the key needed to be there. And it was a very efficient way. I kept begging him to buy another system, but you know, he didn't need to. His $3,000 investment spread across 13 clinics, and honestly, he was making $1 million a year. So don't underestimate what you can do with this. John, that's brilliant. I really appreciate that, and I have to apologize for interrupting. It's one of my worst habits.
That's all right. Well, I could talk forever. It's a new toy that I could talk all day about. So you have to interrupt me.
Okay.
Well, really exciting times to jump in.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Just too excited. And both of you, please do jump in. And of course, Michaela, this is our first session with you. So, you know, it is important to have the basics kind of covered. And, you know, we do have that kind of 1-2 day program that John and I did, lectures and sort of direct demos of how to set up the equipment. And I assume you've already had a good look at it. I would have sent you your own specific access key, and so you now know how to set up that equipment. And of course, for others who haven't seen that, they will have been sent the link and their own key to access this basic research, basic training. And then of course there's the little exam at the end, just to make sure everybody's on their toes and you know, is open to doing other research, you know, that perhaps questions that aren't necessarily directly covered in the study, in the presentation. But the next stage of training is where we're at now, where we're just about to take a set of images, or we have just taken a set of images, and you know, we're just qualifying, getting everything set up, and then initiates an individual series of one-on-one trainings, which allows you to really learn how this technology works, even though John is in the UK right now and I'm in America, because we're working with your clients. For example, Michele, your mother, your sister, your brother, your auntie, your best friend. Between the two of you, you know that individual's medical history. You know every injury, every heartbreak, every trauma, and so forth, every operation. And so when you send me a set of their Biofield and Chakra Viewer images, I don't know anything about them. You have their medical history in front of you. And so when I start deciphering the biofield, and you realize by what you know of this person, they could even be sitting next to you, what is known of this person, that is how you realize how accurate our biofield viewer is. And it also is a very tuned opportunity for this transfer of knowledge and technology, because gee, it's your mum. You know she twisted her knee when, you know that's her weak spot. And yet here's this guy going through 5 things, and each one of them is hitting the nail on the head. So much so, mum's blushing next to me. You know, it's absolutely spot on. And we don't doubt it. And after a million times, nobody else doubts it. And that's the power that we come into this training with. Because before me, I have literally had hundreds of other clinicians, doctors, practitioners who've all been taking images, who all have their 30, 40, 50 years of knowledge and experience in their field. And so the important thing is that I'm not teaching them to think a certain way. I'm encouraging them to look at our biofield viewer images based on their own training. So this is why a lymphatic drainage expert sees the lymph nodes in the biofield counterpart, and the meridian-based therapist of whatever type immediately notices the tracts and the congestions in the meridians. They're both right, but they're both noticing different things in the whole. So this is very crucial. It obviously allows individuals to cross-reference as they become more comfortable with understanding the entire lattice of anatomy and physiology of the biofield. But until they do, they're comfortable in their lane, and we would never discourage that. So as a physiotherapist and as a chiropractor, you're going to be stunned that if a vertebrae is dysfunctional in any way, it's going to show up like a clown's red nose. And you're not doing an X-ray. You're not doing any kind of hands-on cold machine on the cold back therapy. This is a standoff image. And not only that, you will see all the energetic counterpart activity to that mechanical stuff. And this may be in the form of pooled energy, which shows the underlying tension in the muscles, which are holding a disequilibrium because of that dysfunctionality in the spine. But so much more is revealed that's more in tune with the osteopathic chiropractic training that you're getting than a standard spine specialist, because you're open to the source of this pain. And it may be a prolapsed arches, and we can see all the way down from these flat feet, twisted ankles, stressed knees, disturbed hips, and then this whole source of this spinal dysfunction is revealed in a whole body image. So this is why we say this is such a transformational technology, because it turns on the lights, not just for the holistic practitioner, but each and every type of holistic practitioner, depending on their training, because the biofield is the level playing field. And the practitioners come in as a different footballer with a different skill set, whether they're a goalie, whether they're a forward, a striker, or a left back. So they all have their different skill sets, but the playing field is the same thing. And what's ironic, Michele, is that since about 100 years, this entire subject has been completely taboo, because we all dived into biochemistry and splitting the atoms, and we were just not interested in plasma and etheric sciences. It just got dropped as being woo-woo. And John and I often laugh, because we know we've got this global tool that's imminently accessible, that can support any healthcare experience with an honest tracking of its progress non-invasively. And yet the entire world is looking the other way for an even more deadlier, more harmful way, like PET radiation, nuclear medical devices, to look at something smaller and smaller. And that ignorance is often quite baffling. But luckily, our chosen path was this one, communicate directly with practitioners all the way around the world. And now we've got more biofield viewer systems with professional practitioners of different modalities than there are PET scans. It's ironic.
Oh.
Yeah. So that is why obviously this communication system is very important. And it's why, John and I also feel like we work for somebody else. We work for the divinity in nature, and we have to trust the seasons, the revelations, and the revelation of mankind's self-discovery. So we're here. We share our technology widely, and we encourage other research groups to look at it. But for you, the first stage is take a set of images, and I think the training manual, which is embedded in the software, gives a very good guidance to take a nice set of images. But what I would say is that you want to see a third of the person in every image. In other words, exactly like this. I'm filling up a third of this image. Yeah. If I was all the way back here, we're wasting all this space. Yeah. So whether you're taking a full body shot, make sure a third of the person is in the image. Okay. Otherwise, you're too far away, and probably the light is too far away as well. And you'll see that when we take pictures of the legs, for example, we lower everything, the light and the camera. We don't tip the camera down, because that creates shadow, and shadow isn't our friend. I've created 2 new slideshows recently available on SlideShare, which is a LinkedIn company where educators can upload their PowerPoints and keynotes for wider public access. And I've got one on there on the meridians, sorry, on the meridian system, which, you know, I think tens of thousands of people have seen, certainly thousands of people have looked at. And that saves me going all around the world, giving lectures, blah, 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 blah. You know, we've only got one body. And because there's, as I said, this subject's been quite taboo, there's not too many of us who've got these decades of experience. I mean, I can name a handful, and because we're all developing our own technologies as well, again, because there's no industry in this real field, you know, that we're actually in our own research silos, you know. So Beverly Rubik, brilliant scientist, actually coined the word biofield, one of them. You know, probably not so interested in biofield science. Institute hours in India and development of the biofield viewer, because it's not her technology, and I find that a bit challenging, but anyhow, you know, it is important for the next generation of scientists who are in this field to access all of the different all right, Kat. Somebody wants to and that's just
intention seeker.
Yeah, really we'll try and
yeah, I mean, while the cat's acting, we've had a lot of experience with chiropractors, Michele, before, and in Germany, I believe, and what they found is that they're seeing especially with our 3D system, that they've been able to see what they can feel. And this has helped the client understand what you are feeling, because it's very difficult to explain your touch to the client. There's no communication method for that. But when you can see it in 3D, you can see the changes, because the 3D is subtle and it picks up the subtle changes in the geometry of the body. Even just that simple point of view before thinking about chakras and auras and energy. If there's a you know, a bone change, or maybe there's a piece of metal in someone's leg or something like that, a very, very subtle effect will be visible with our system, because they're so sensitive on that. Because with your fingers you'll be able to feel that, you'll know all that, and you'll feel what's wrong. But you've got a visual aid to explain to the client what you're seeing and how you feel it can be improved.
Sometimes you go with your hands on the patient, and you can see with your hands, but it's not the same as having a picture. You can, when you develop some kind of sensibility with your fingertips, you can just feel the tension in the muscle, the difference of alignment in the bones, and most of the time the patient don't have this kind of self-awareness. And they feel better, but being able to see what you can see with your hands would be amazing. And when I saw the first research with Biofield, whoa, all the dots connected, I can show to the patient what I see with my eyes and my hands, and this is gonna develop a biofeedback, and they're gonna also feel better because they see the improvement.
Michele, we call it biofeedback, and if you think about it,
nice.
Just with a little bit of technology, they can see what you're doing live. So instead of investing in a computer screen, spend $300 or $400 on a projector. And so instead of running just a flat screen of the healing session, the chiropractic session that's going on, if you have a projector mounted above your table, obviously a lot of the time you're working on their back, but still, if you have a projector mounted on the table and a couple of mirrors that they can see, both potentially when they're lying on their back, but also one on the ceiling that's angled so that when they're lying in the face hole, they can see in the mirror what you're doing behind.
Real time.
Yeah, and the point is that
at the same time,
with a projector, you can project their biofield directly onto them, onto their back. And so you can see the energy in real time in location. and so can they. So as you're highlighting congested areas, so we will see the type of things that we see in a biofield image when it's congested, but so too can they see this journey from asymmetry to symmetry, from murky, dark colors to bright, vibrant colors. This is healing, and when they witness it in real time, it's not biofeedback anymore. It's biofieldback. It's a fully immersive, shifting opportunity. So, you know, we'll play with that. I mean, one thing I would say is that some projectors don't project big enough, close enough. So you end up with a small body in the middle of the back. You have to get the right model that's going to do what you need to do based on your ceiling height. But apart from that, it gives the opportunity for fully immersive screening. That's why we say it's turning the lights on in the operating theatre of the chiropractor or other holistic practitioners. So Michele, I mean, I think the best way for us to avoid making any mistakes is if I give you a very, very, very sneak preview of my slides that I'm going to show tomorrow night on my international workshop. I'm not going to show all of them. I'm just going to dive in a couple of slides. But I think it's important for you to see them because you're just about to go on this little journey. Now you see he's filling up a third of the space of the image.
Yes.
First thing. Second thing, the colors are very bright and clear. So we can see any asymmetries. For example, notice down this arm, there's quite a lot of pooled pink, whereas down this arm, there really isn't that sort of mirror. Here in the jaw, we see a pattern that we don't see on the other side. So although the image looks fairly symmetrical when we first look at it, it really isn't that symmetrical. When someone's biofield is congested or compromised, and our journey is to help them get to that symmetricality, if that's a word. We may have just invented it. So obviously, this slide inspires the kind of cameras you can use. The better the camera, the better the image. John's software has got millions of colors. So if we're Mickey Mousing around,
already have it.
Yeah, boom. But notice this light, for example. A colleague of ours in Turkey has one like this, and it doesn't seem to have quite enough of the LEDs. So these images are coming out a bit dark. So I think you need to be careful of that. But essentially, this is really the kind of light that we're looking at. And we only need one light, Michele, because the more lights you have, you end up like a footballer in a stadium with sort of 6 shadows dancing all around them. One light allows us to reduce shadow to an absolute minimum by having them stand back against the wall, the white wall. If they're standing too far away, the light may make a shadow of them up on the wall, and that confuses our software. Well, it doesn't confuse it, but it adds a layer of artifact, we call it. Okay, so this is essentially what we're looking at. And as you can see, this is a really old style camera and an old style kind of light, but the geometry is the same. If you have a really dark floor, then get a nice big piece of white card, maybe laminate it so that the darkness of the floor doesn't detract from being able to interpret and analyze the feet. Okay, so that's why we have that box over there. But it really doesn't need to be a box. It can just be a white card that you can even roll up and, you know, have a rubber band around and then take to another venue. And then each time perhaps lay it out a different way so the curve doesn't get too ingrained. And so, like I said, a third of each image. And I encourage people to take the Biofield viewer the chakra viewer, and if someone's working with the 3D viewer, all at the same time. So they can just go back and forwards between the different programs with one hand, so that the subject doesn't have to keep turning around. They just do it once, and you can capture each set of images, okay? And so on the left, we see a biofield image. On the right, we call it a chakra viewer image. In reality, all we're doing is working with our digital filters, you know, like going a little bit out of focus, emulating what a clairvoyant does when they're looking at your energy field. They're taking their eyes out of focus. They're looking at a 3D poster and they're suddenly seeing a dolphin jumping out of the page. That's the technique. And so we're emulating that process. And as John says, we're looking through a fractal at a fractal, which is a beautiful way of describing it. But of course, things which we can see in the biofield image may not show up in the chakra viewer image, and vice versa. And that's very interesting. For example, if we notice this guy's shoulders, they're not that pink. There's a lot of green. But when we see them in chakra viewer, the pink really does seem to stand out. And that's because it's the weight of the world on this guy's shoulders from an emotional level that's affecting him, not his actual physical mechanical shoulders. You see what I mean?
Okay.
So we can see these differences. Okay. And it also means we can identify whether something is a physical problem or an emotional problem. And that is brilliant, because if it's only an emotional problem, it gives us a timeline that this issue is early in its development because it hasn't crystallized as a physical disease or something. So we can use very quick and gentle methods to help address emotional type of issues. We could use something like EFT, whereas when it becomes a physical issue, we need somebody like you. You know, the energetic.
Okay. What is EFT? Sorry.
EFT is called emotional freedom technique. It's something that you can inspire someone to watch a couple of videos and they can do it for themselves. Always interested in empowering people with self-healing tools. So again, a really old slide. You can see this is got Korean text on it. We have literally researchers all over the world. And we had this fantastic fellow who had not only $200,000 TV cameras, but also the kind of really affordable webcams. And he basically went through every single camera, every single type of light, and optimized the camera and lighting completely independently from us. But obviously it's a kind of legacy that we can share with our students even now. Shadow is not our friend. So if I'm trying to take a biofield viewer image, if you were doing an image of me now, you could grab my Zoom picture, process it through the biofield, and have it back in the chat box in 2 minutes, 1 minute, instantly. But there's no point doing it if there's half shadow on my face and half light on my face. So this is why we encourage people to kind of get a really good idea of what is the correct lighting, you know. It's funny, John and I were fooling around once in Thailand with, as I said, a projector. And here he is with his shirt off. Handsome fellow, and of course amazing biofield, but you know that you can use the projector as the screening tool. So the light of the projector is enough to illuminate the biofield and project it. It's almost perfect. So it's very liberating, very liberating indeed. And of course this is now video, because we're not limited to grabbing still images. So you see what I've got there, I'm holding the projector up at the top half of the body, and I can scan his whole body by just lowering the projector. because the projector's linked directly into the Biofield viewer. So you can see his head, it's now too dark. But, you know, once the thing resets, I could do a proper assessment of his belly. So it really is a very, very versatile tool. And we need a good set of images so that we can honor someone with a good assessment, because I want to know what the monkey is on this guy's back. And by having the full set of images, I can see this is an endemic issue, a systemic issue. So I need to be working with this guy's ankles if I want to address this. And this is playing into your hands, Michele, if any technology perhaps ever did, because of your very unique training. And of course, images speak 1,000 words, but it is important for us, say when you're doing a dissertation proving the efficacy of a new technique that you've discovered using Biofield Viewer in the chiropractic field, we can analyze the data out of each image. We recommend image J, A, because it's free, B, because it's globally recognized as the scientist's tool for image processing. So we don't have to persuade all the global agencies that we're showing them what we're showing them, because we're using the industrial standard. And then, of course, what we end up with, which is fascinating, is a composite wave of the disease state or the wellness state of an individual. And once you've got millions of these wave state graphics, you can compare in a database if these future exact wave shapes turn up again. You've got all the data on 30 other cases. So this fuels our AI. But of course, John and I, being very humbled by divinity, servants of divinity, you know, we don't tiptoe into that cyber soulless world of artificial intelligence. Our AI is augmented intelligence, where the tool is a magic carpet, not a crutch, but it's still a tool, and it still is in coherence with human consciousness and our journey as stewards in nature. This is really core to John and I, that we believe that, we know it to be true. And so, you know, can we liberate ourselves from the studio, you know, from the Photo Me booth? Can we now use the technology available to us to trust a couple to take a half decent set of images of themselves at home? We only need the criteria as if it was a passport photo. We don't need any more than that, no more complex than that. And of course, the whole world is being asked to take their passport photos at home. You know, there are no more Photo Me booths being produced. We've transitioned. And in the same way, the only difference, of course, is that instead of turning up with a suit and tie for your passport photo, ideally the individual will turn up in their birthday suit. And this is why having this high security internal imaging transfer system allows us to remain HIPAA compliant. Obviously, when it comes to ladies, we encourage them to perhaps wear their hair in a ballet bun, to wear a sports bra in 100% cotton, so there's no iron metal beams or plastic grips or anything, and there's certainly no colorful patterns. So, you know, this is not a gynecological investigation. This is just a full body screen, so people can protect their modesty as they prefer. But ideally, you know, if someone's wanting a full body assessment, at least the female breast needs to be seen, and that's a process, and I understand how that all works. In different countries there's different sensitivities, but you know, ultimately when you're a clinician, and you have you know, good you know, manners and professional manners, you know, people are there to find out what's going on, and we're just extending that, as John said, very, very private thing. I mean, that was really the most important thing to him when he first started speaking earlier, is that we are developing all of our technology to honor people's privacy. Even the thousands and thousands of hours of maths he puts into our very unique security system, it's because of what we're saying. If someone wants to share their own photograph, woof, completely different story. They can put it wherever they like. But before they make that decision, we honor them. And we honor them really well. And that's why we even encourage in clinic situations for ladies to take pictures of ladies, or in fact for them to use the device that John developed especially for this process, which is effectively a timer, so that someone who's not comfortable disrobing in a room with another person can operate the machine themselves. You just show them how to do it, you know, press this button and then the image will be taken in 10 seconds. So get back over there and stand in the right position, so they can do that one by one. And of course, once we see the images, they're like this. I mean, I'm not concerned about, I don't even know, I can't tell who this is, because we're seeing them through their biofield. So although we can see them clearly, and of course the person's going to recognize their own image, we don't have to know exactly who they are. And I think that that is important. And of course, these images here are showing the kind of thing that you're going to be doing. The first image of an intervention, and then when they go home and send all their relatives and come back 6 months later for a top up. Now you'll have to excuse me. I know we're doing this live whole shaboom, but my dogs are scratching on the door, wanting to come in. So perhaps John, Michaela, you'll excuse me for a moment.
Okay. Well, I can share my screen, show some chiropractor images. I don't know if I'm able to share. Yeah, no, I can't at the moment. Thornton only can share his screen.
No, John, I will let you share your screen. Sorry. Just tell me how to do it. I think I need multiple participants can share. Yeah, so we're doing that now. I've got one dog in.
Oh, got it. It's enabled now.
Yeah, so you go for it. Excuse me, Michaela. I still got to let
let's
Don't worry.
No, that's not working, is it? No. Oh, yes, it is. Can you see 6 images? Is that the view?
Yeah, I can see it.
Or maybe is that the main view? Okay, this is really early work. When the very first version of Biofield Viewer in long time ago. This is the first person who used Biofield Viewer, apart from myself and Thornton. The Biofield Viewer version is called Frank, and he's our main tester who tests our new versions very effectively, and he let me have these images to show everyone, which are chiropractor sessions that he had, and the left-hand images are before treatment and the right-hand images are the same location after treatment, showing, I think you can see a lot more symmetry after treatment, because the body's in better shape due to it. And the chiropractor was very interested and was very surprised that this is the first time in their entire career that they were able to see what they've been feeling on the body. So it was a revelation to them. So I just thought I'd show that. So back to
thank you.
back to us.
Brilliant, John. My God, I don't think I've seen those slides before.
I was just showing Frank's.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's Frank. Right from back in the day. Yeah.
Brilliant.
So,
One thing
yes.
I would say about
It's on my old website that I never even go to myself. Is
Michele, one thing I would say is that I hope you take better shots than that. You know, those images
yeah.
were, I mean, if we're going to compare before and after, they need to be, you know, laser matching, you know, the exact angle. And of course you can get it right if you've got a decent tripod and your equipment is all laid out in the same place. You can take a series of images over time and do a kind of time lapse journey over, say, 6 months of someone with a very, very, very specific chronic illness. And of course, this could become the basis of your online training course for hands-on therapies. How do you convey these very subtle things? You know, everyone needs to show up and attend, but, you know, in a new era of online training, as you're doing with life schools and so forth, there's an opportunity for us to get a much deeper understanding of the tensegrity of healing. Now, listen, guys. I think we're going to launch the great HMS Michele into the ocean of science with our equipment, with a fine bottle of Italian, what's it called? Prosciutto, isn't it? Fizzy stuff. And yeah, exactly, virtual prosecco. And then maybe in about, you know, in a week's time, you will come back with a nice set of images. We'll invite John to look in as well, but we'll get down to that real nitty-gritty stuff of transfer of knowledge, of the interpretation, advanced interpretation, because obviously there's loads of material already online how to interpret a biofield image. But when it comes to training our practitioners, we do it personally.
Okay.
So have you got any questions?
Okay, I have everything. I have all the material, but I had troubles to set up everything because I don't have a white wall with enough space. And I may have access to some patient because I am a chiropractic friend. Give me some time to figure out something, and we'll come back with some pictures.
Yeah, that's why we don't have a class.
We're available. We're always available.
Yeah. That's why we haven't organized the time of our class. It's up to you, buddy. You call us in and we'll be there. You know, it's 8 o'clock in the morning, coming to 9 now here in Colorado. John, it's in you. It's kind of, I guess, mid-afternoon. You know, it's very civilized way to communicate.
Yeah. This is a good time of day. Yes.
Yeah, but I'm gonna take your leave now because it's store day today, being Monday. You know, we've run out of all of our perishables up the mountain, so I've got to put the chains on my truck, go down a black ice where it looks like 45-degree angle road without coming off it, and in a couple of hours come back up. Do the same thing. So it's important we do it in daylight and give ourselves time to walk home if we have to. So lots of love to both of you. John, lovely to see you. Congratulations on all the progress. And Michele, welcome. And obviously any other student who's watching this in their first sort of glimpses of our technology, or even before they get it, welcome to you too. Lots of love. Well done, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. See you.
Well done, John.
Bye.